in the TechTip, and I joined as a trainee engineer. So year one was basically departmental training and intra-department training, in which we covered process department first, and then other engineering department also, to get to know the interface between other engineering departments. So that was the first year was all about, and we got the chance to work in projects also. We got our hands on the projects, live projects, which were there during that time. And post that, we were confirmed as a process design engineer. And since then, I'm working as a process design engineer in various projects. Basically, it depends on the project cycle. Earlier, I worked in design projects. They generally last for around 6 to 8 months, depending on the scope of work. And currently, I'm working on a detail engineering project, which will go for around 2 to 2.5 years, the life cycle of that project. So that's from my side. And for further, if you have any questions, any kind of questions regarding design, we can cover that in the Q&A. So basically, what my profile is, as a process design engineer, we design the entire plant, starting from the process, which is once we have the process, know-how of the process, we generally develop. Someone has posted one question. We'll get back to that. Once we have the know-how of the process, we generally develop the process flow diagram. You might have heard of PFDs, which is process flow diagram, which we have. And with the PFD, we generally get HMB, which is heat and material balance for that unit. And these are the two basic documents that we develop for any process. So based on these two documents, the further engineering is it's evolved in the next phases. So after that, once we have the PFD and HMB, PFD we generally get PFD and HMB with the process simulation softwares we use. In my company, actually, there are different companies. They use various kinds of softwares. For example, Honeywell, they have their own softwares, and some companies use S Pen or HYSYS, same thing. And some companies use Pro2. It's a software from the SimC. And what else? So these are the simulation softwares that we use to generate our process flow diagram and heat and material balance for the plant. And after that, once we have the PFD and HMV, you can get all sorts of documents. Basically, these will be the basic requirement of for further documents. So you can further develop PNIDs, which is nothing but your piping and instrumentation diagram. It will have the whole plant in it. I mean, what will be the once you do the hydraulics and equipment sizing, so it will have all the details for further engineering activities. So that's a very summarized version of my profile. So if you have any specific questions, we can cover that in the Q&A. Jay,
So,
Sachin, next.
yeah. So, Rahul, can you speak a bit about how your work is related to what we did in third and fourth years? Like, what subjects uh, from, if you can take an example from the subjects that we studied in our college to relate it to your work, if you can.
Yeah, so I mean, if you go in that direction, I can, in the summary, I can say you have heat exchangers, right? When we say heat and material balance, so that's nothing but heat and mass transfer, right? So for heat transfer, we can say I think we had this book, right? I'm not sure. I think Sachdeva was it, right? Heat transfer. So with the heat transfer basically used. There are two ways. One is for the exchanger design that we do, and for exchanger design, heat exchanger design, we have HTRI software. This is industry-wide use software, HTRI, that we use for the heat exchanger thermal design. And heat transfer is further used. Basically, once you have the plant, I don't know if you have heard of pinch analysis. So basically, you have the hot streams in the plant and you have the cold streams in the plant. So basically, what you are as a process engineer, your job is to integrate those, hot and cold streams for the heat transfer, for the heat integration. Basically, it is called. So with so for that you need to have knowledge of heat transfer, how it is uh, how it can be implemented in the plant. And for mass transfer, I'd say we used to have this book, right? What was Anantaraman's book, Mass Transfer 1 and 2. So for mass transfer, we have a distillation column, right? In every, almost all uh, projects, in the all basically refinery, or we can say any hydrogen generation units, or nitrogen generation units, or any plant we have for the refinery plants. So the crude distillation columns are always there. Distillation columns, or we can say strippers, or we can say absorbers. So these are all kind of columns, distillation columns, where your mass transfer is happening. So for that, it's directly from there. And for the we also do the reactor design, catalytic reactor design. So in that we have studied CRE, right? CRE 1 and CRE 2. So this is directly related there. So and for the plant hydraulics, we study uh, uh, fluid mechanics, right? So this is directly involved in the complete hydraulics of the plant. You have the process circuits, you have the utility circuits, you have cooling water circuit, you have steam circuit. So for that hydraulics, the fluid mechanics is directly involved. Basically, the line sizes and control sizing and pump sizing, it all comes under that in that domain, fluid dynamics. So that is also must knowledge that you should have for the for the complete basically design of that plant. Yeah. So that is these are the basically mainstream things: mass transfer, heat transfer, and fluid dynamics. These three are the very must for that. As a process design engineer, you should have vast knowledge of about these three: heat transfer, mass transfer, and another one would be fluid dynamics, fluid mechanics. So these three are the must for that.
So these three subjects and these three are like phenomenally core subjects in our chemical engineering. So these three
Right, right.
subjects uh, were there questions in the exam that is there before the interview process that is there? So what subjects can students
Okay,
concentrate on?
for
Yeah,
the interview preparation, you are asking, right?
Yes. How to prepare
interview
for
and the
interview?
Yeah,
exam
so
before.
for the interview preparation, it's pretty straightforward. Basically, I'll tell you what they generally ask as a in any design engineer process design interview. They focus mainly on four things, which is first one would be distillation columns, basically mass transfer. Second one would be heat transfer. Uh, that is basically your heat exchangers, or you can say reboilers under that umbrella, reboilers. Steam generators that you have for that. And third one would be for the hydraulics part, for the fluid dynamics part, you should have knowledge about pumps and control valves. So these are the four more important aspects. And for the simulation purpose, you should have knowledge of thermodynamics as well, because for each plant we choose generally thermodynamic models. So you should have thermodynamics knowledge as well for that. So these are the basic things that you need to prepare for any interview of process design profile.
And what about exams that is there before the interview? Same four topics that you
Basically,
mentioned.
Yes,
all
correct,
these
correct.
general questions are there. Basically, the exams are not that difficult. All these exams like aptitude, all those subjects are pretty common in any interview. But for the core subjects, they generally ask from these topics only. So that is
And
pretty common.
okay. Like I'm making notes, guys. Like the four main topics, and I'll send you the notes of whatever we are discussing, and we'll share the video also so that you can go through them after this. Rahul, just one more thing, if you can talk about, does GPA matter to get placed in the core companies? If I talk about TechNip or similar kind of.
See, GPA does matter, but it's we can say not case-to-case basis. We can say. So, suppose if I give an example from my experience, I mean, I'm not sure about the others, but GPA, if you are if the PSUs are coming, right, like GAIL or HPCL or IOCL, for college placement, they generally look for GPA because even if you are, for example, you are a 7.5 pointer or 7.8 pointer, say, and they have a candidate who has got around 9 pointer or 9.2 pointer in the same round, and even if your interview goes better slightly or maybe comparatively better with the other guy who has a 9 pointer, still the one who has 9 pointer would have better chances, because that's for them it's good on the paper, not so they can defend themselves in the future if something anything happens, and if someone questions the recruitment process, so they can simply say that he had the better point in that way. So that is from my personal experience, which I have experienced. And for the private companies like Honeywell and ExxonMobil, we can say, or Technip, we can say, or Bechtel, and number of companies are there, CBI and Lummus. There are lots of companies. So in that perspective, your interview does. Uh, in that case, your CGPA becomes secondary, and your interview or your knowledge or your whatever experience you have and your approach towards the design, that becomes the primary factor in those companies. And the GPA is must. I mean, you should have at least a CGPA of more than 7 or 7.5. If you have more than that, it's good. And the primary would be your interview and your approach, what I've talked about earlier, the knowledge of subjects, the practical knowledge that you have on the subjects, and your approach towards the design. So that would be the main primary factor for the job selection process.
Okay, okay. And yeah, I had one more question in mind. It slipped. Let's just move on. I'll ask it later.
Yeah, I will get
Okay,
So
back to you.
Rahul Sethi, can you share about your work culture in the Technip? Like,
Yeah, work culture is pretty chilled. I mean, see, there are basically once you graduate as a chemical engineer, there are three paths which, if you are in the core sector, three paths we have. One is into the design category, design as a design engineer. Another would be operation engineer, and another third one would be kind of mixed operation plus troubleshooting, basically mix
yes,
of your
technical.
field
Yes,
job and office job.
The EPC sector.
Yogi
yes,
would
we
explain
can
that
call
better.
it
So
technical services. Like there are different profiles in chemical engineering, operations, design engineer, process engineer, technologist. So Rahul is working as a process engineer, and Sachin is working as a operation engineer, and I am working as a process engineer. Okay, so we'll tell you about the all the different profiles.
So I can tell you about the process design engineer. So basically, our responsibility is we receive projects from client, Indian clients. We have, for example, I can list a few. You can say GAIL, HPCL, and BPCL, Reliance, whatever companies are there, the manufacturing companies or production companies, we can say, they are running the plants, but we know that they are operating the plant. But who designs that? Who is the who has constructed those plants? So that's where design companies come in. So that's the part of our design engineer job, and further engineering departments which are integrated with it, the construction people and the re-engineering, piping and instrumentation and all civil. So those are they get along with that. They are part of the process for the construction.
so
So for the as a process design job, it's a 5 day week job. We do have timelines or schedules to meet, but still it's not as I'm not sure about Yogi will tell you about more about the operation when they go for shutdowns, and what what is that during shutdowns, how stressful it can get, and about shift also he'll tell that they have multiple shifts when they are in operations. But in the design, it's nothing like that. You get 5 day week job, 8 to 10 hours daily. So there is that, because you have certain timelines to it, but still it's not that you are not in hurry, because if you are hurrying the design itself, then I mean this will have further effect downstream. So there is no hurry in the design part. So that's there is that. And what else? Jay, I think we have some questions in the chat box, so if you can read that out and we can discuss.
Yeah, guys, just one more thing that I want to bring your attention on is Rahul Sethi just answered one very important question that might come up in your interviews. What does a process engineer do? They design the plants from different companies such as IOCL, HPCL. You might not take the name of these companies, but you can just put it in a generalized way that what does a process engineer do? Uh, Process engineer designs the plants of, like, there is something going on in big companies such as petroleum, but who designs them? Technip. So like that. Yeah.
No, I mean, same. We have multiple companies in that. Technip is one of them. There are
Right.
Bechtel is there, Honeywell is there. So there are lots of Honeywell is basically licensor. They do not go in the detail engineering phase. They have some licensed unit. So basically, they are licensor for them. They do not go for the detail engineering part.
Okay. Yeah. Now you can take your questions.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
guys, Jay, I'd like to add on to what Rahul said about process engineering. Having been served as a process engineer in Dr. Reddy's myself, the one thing that we were also responsible for handling was uh, CAPA, that is corrective and preventive actions in troubleshooting of operations in plants. In addition to that, you are also responsible for leading quality related projects like Six Sigma implementation and quality assessment of the processes, as well as restructuring of processes if you're working in a production unit. So while it is a little different from process design engineering, guys, it is also involving you to understand the entire process of operation, right from the start to the end product, as well as optimizing that chain of events that takes place and optimizing the staff. So if you're working in a production profile, you might have 5 to 10 people working under you, and you will be solely responsible for optimizing that process to gain speed, as well as increase your production limits in that particular work. So this was the kind of profile that I was in Dr. Reddy's, and it varies from company to company. I'm sure Sachin and Mahesh Yogi can add
Yes,
for more
correct.
on Reliance in this.
Okay. Sachin, are you there?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So Sachin worked in Jamnagar as a operation engineer. Now he'll tell you about the operation experience. Okay. So tell the truth.
Uh, yeah, yeah, that will eventually come out.
Yeah.
So, good morning, all. My name is Hem Prasad Sachin. I
good morning,
joined
Sachin.
Reliance. Yeah, good morning, all. So, I joined Reliance in 2017. Initially, I was put in operations. Right now, just in last 1 year, I transferred to this technology. So under Reliance, it's a huge umbrella for a chemical engineer. There are many multiple roles where a chemical engineer can fit into. So first thing would be primary thing is operations. So as an operational engineer, you will be put into a role called shift field engineer. Most likely it depends on the vacancy. So you will be assigned as a role called a shift field engineer, where you will work in 8-hour shifts, 6 days a week, and you will be mostly concerned with the primary operational constraints. See, it's more about every day. Big petroleum companies, they have huge maintenance work and huge problems coming up every day. So as a shift engineer, you will be taking care only about implementing the solutions given by the maintenance team or given by the technology team. So as an what to say, there is not much of chemical engineering to it, because in inside field 90% jugad works. So that is how an operational shift field engineer goes about his day every day. So uh, that's pretty much about operational, being an operational engineer or shift field engineer. And second role would be a central technical services, where you'll be half assigned with operations and half assigned with the technology team, and you'll be like the bridge between the both. And there you have something to work with chemical engineering, because that is, you have to give some suggestions or creative solutions for addressing operational issues. And third role would be the one which I'm serving now. It is like technologist in Mumbai. So basically, you you will be assigned a plan, okay, and you will be assigned, and you have to know all the in and out of the entire plan completely, and you will have to address the operational issues by providing technical solutions, okay. And the CTS engineer will try to implement it, and at last it goes to the operational engineer. So that's the way the chain works. So these are the critical roles under Reliance where a chemical engineer can work. And other roles, it depends on, I mean, in what the role which you get, it depends on two things. One is the campus panel, which is coming for the recruitment. And second is the vacancies once you enter the Reliance. So if there are vacancies in any of the roles, you'll be most likely to put in any of the three positions. Okay. And the other roles which I was not a part of, but I know about are being a panel officers, where you will be sitting in a control, I mean, sitting in the control room, and you will be taking care of all this, controlling the distillation column or controlling critical equipments, compressors, pumps, whatever it is. You'll be giving this control from the control panel. Yeah. And the second thing is special task force. This is like not much people know about this group in Reliance, but what they do is they are responsible for commissioning of new plants. What they do is they do this basic engineering for a new plant, and they do all this. I mean, the roles which Rahul Sethi explained, process design engineer. They do all this end-to-end technical analysis and technical solution, providing technical solutions for new upcoming technologies. So that's how these are the common roles under Reliance. I can see a smile.
You didn't tell when you people design something and eventually it doesn't work, you people come to us for solutions. That part you have left.
Yeah. Correct. So
I
you
don't
can
know
share
that
about your
yeah.
shift experience also. Like you have to work in shifts now, so you can share that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how it happens is that initially when you join Reliance for 1 year, you'll be placed in the training category. It's called graduate training, engineer training. Okay, and for you'll be assigned in a plant. It depends on the vacancy out there. Okay, so I was a part of catalytic reforming unit. Okay, so initially from the beginning itself, from my day one itself, I was in this plant, working in this plant only. So you'll be in 8-hour shift. And the entire 8 hours, it's all about taking permits. So what is a permit? Permit means that it's like you have the authority to give the contractor to work inside a plant. So you'll be taking care of all about the safety issues, and you'll be mostly concerned with equipment startup and shutdown. So this is how the shift works in as an operational engineer. I think I gave a brief about what they do.
Yeah. So Sachin and Mahesh, can you please again talk about interviews and the subjects you are directly related to chemical engineering right now?
If you want to take that, or should I go with it?
You go on.
Okay. Okay. As I said earlier, it depends entirely on the panel who is coming to the campus for recruitment. Okay. So if you see in during my batch in 2017, there was only one panel. I guess they came mainly for operational vacancy. And if you see from the same batch, if you see in NIT Calicut, they had 2 or 3 panels. One came from STF, a Special Task Force. One came from the Central Technical Services, and one came from operations. Okay, so it depends first on that. So if you ask me, as Rahul said earlier, the primary subjects would be fluid mechanics, thermodynamics, heat transfer, and mass transfer. These 4 subjects are very critical, irrespective of the panel which you are going to face, because everyone is going to ask you about pumps, compressors, and some few questions about distillation columns and the troubleshooting. Yes. So it doesn't depend on the panel, but yeah, you guys have to prepare for all these 4 subjects. So that is mandatory. And if you see the career prospects of after being a operational engineer or a technologist or a process engineer, I would say from Reliance, as an operational engineer, there is not much technical stuffs to do. Okay, I'll say it openly. There is not much technical stuff to do. Even a diplomat can, if a person with only a diploma degree can do all this work. Okay, because inside once you enter a production environment, you will come to know how Jugaad works. People 90% just solve the issues with Jugaad. Okay, so you don't need a degree for that. So career prospects would be after 4 or 5 years of experience. If you have a good amount of workload under your resume or good amount of projects under your resume, you can apply for you can apply for similar roles in Gulf industries. I mean Gulf petroleum industries. Okay, there you get a lot of money. I mean I'm saying it openly. You get a lot of money for the same role which you do in Reliance. Okay, so that's one prospect from being an operational engineer. And from being a central technical service, I mean, from a technologist or a technical service engineer, you can you can get 2 to 3 years of experience. That will be good. And if you have some good projects under your resume, and you will be most like you can have very good chances of getting into licensed companies. For every plant has its own licensed company. For example, Technip is one of our licensed companies. EOP is one of our licensed companies, and
Sure.
Bechtel is also falls under similar kind. So if you have good 2 to 3 years of experience in as a technical engineer, you can have a very good career as a technical engineer in licensed company also. There the career path is really good. Yeah. So that's very much sums it up. Amayesh, you want to add anything to it? I think, yeah, if you have anything different from what I want to say.
Javan sir.
Jay, we can ask Shovik to share his
Yeah.
PSU experience with us.
Yeah. Sovik, are you there?
Yeah,
I
I'm there. I'm
Yeah.
here. I'm here. Hello, everyone. Good
And
morning.
one more thing about Sovik, he got placed in SRF and then he got double placed in
Gale.
Gale. So he can bring interview experience of 2 companies, and he was, I think, so a 9 pointer. So it adds up.
I think many of us got double place.
Yeah, also that was very sarcastic comment that you just.
I was a 7.7 pointer, man.
And
I
sarcasm
tried.
added by Rahul.
Let's not go into GPS now, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's continue. So, hope you all are doing well in this pandemic situation and all. And a very good morning to everyone. So I'll just carry forward what Sachin and Mahesh Yogi talked about being a process engineer or rather an operations engineer. So I work in GATE. It's predominantly a process engineer in the oil and gas sector. So the unit that I work in is a petrochemical plant, and the designer licensor is Rahul's company, Technic. Hello.
Yeah, sure, you're audible.
Yeah, is it audible? Okay.
Yeah, audible, completely audible.
So being a process engineer or rather an operations engineer in a government company or rather PSU, you have a set guidelines. You don't have a lot of like side tracks you go on. They're defined by the government and all. So you do the normal operations work, normal process work. And if you have more interest in some other kind of work, development work, or maybe a technologist work, so you'll get assigned to planning, strategy development, and maybe some other technology development thing. There's this other group which works in developing new technologies, such as we are there's a new PDH plant coming up. It's basically a propane dehydrogenation plant coming up in OSA. So that is a new plant coming up in the petrochemicals area. So there is a dedicated team working on that. And it's pretty simple. It's a relaxed environment. You don't have much workload other than the shutdown part. And yeah, the package is good, but opportunity is less. So that's it. And coming to CGPA, it's just a gateway. You have this basic CGPA. it is around 8.5 or 8. If you get past that, you are eligible for the selection procedure, and rest is after the interview or the GD or the written exam that comes forward. So, and the subjects that you need to take care about is already explained by the previous speakers. It's mainly heat transfer, mass transfer. It's not much about CPDs, the chemical process design, but chemical reaction engineering and all fluid dynamics and all those things. Yeah. So in the interview process, the panel is a bit frightening because 8 to 9 people will be there, and they are very strict about the fundamentals. The interview part is a bit tricky. They focus mainly on the fundamentals, and it's chill. You don't have to worry about any kind of medical facilities. All the allowances are super, but as far as the career is concerned, it's very restricted unless and until you have that extra self motivation to go out of your normal schedule, and then you work on some different technologies and all. So I guess that's it.
And
Guys, Jay, if I can add something here.
sure.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, guys, one more input I'd like to give with respect to a PSU here is that I personally appeared for the GATE exam in 2017 myself. And if the company, if a Mini Ratna or a Maharatna company like GAIL or a HPCL or a BPCL does not also provides you an opportunity to get into these companies through an all India rank in GATE exam. If you guys are seriously preparing for a PSU, GATE exam is a good method to get into it. The only criteria is you need to have a rank within the first, say maybe first 500 or first 400 all India, and you will be competing with a lot of MTech and BTech guys all across the country. So, but on the flip side, even if you don't get that kind of a rank, the fundamentals that you gain when you are appearing for a GATE examination readies you up for your core jobs. You can actually appreciate your subjects better, and when you sit for interviews for your companies, you will have a very good command over your subject knowledge. So that is one input I wanted to give you. The other thing being, of course, GPA, as my fellow speakers mentioned, is a gateway, or it's a criterion which is put often. I don't know how far it's relevant today when the processes are happening, but please don't worry if your GPA is any bit lower than your competitor who is also in the same process, because if both of you guys are giving an interview, then the clarity of your concepts and thoughts will come into picture and will come into consideration when you are appearing for that process. Also, one role that probably all of us didn't touch upon right now is that you can get placed in an R&D role also as a chemical engineer. So in an R&D department like the one we had in my company, Dr. Reddy's, they used to recruit from the IITs. But even if you're from an NIT and you can be shifted to a R&D department. In the R&D, you are basically responsible for scratch design of processes and innovation into existing processes. More efficient, more better.
Just to add to Kushagra, may I?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So R&D, yeah, as Kushagra rightly said, chemical process engineering has a great prospect in R&D. But when it comes to PSUs, it's rarely seen that you are placed in R&D. Moreover, if you go to private sector companies, like you can go to, let's say my previous company that I got placed in, but I didn't join. It's SRF, or maybe but PSU, I don't know why, but being in an oil and gas company, PSL Kochi, or maybe Reliance in Mumbai. So apart from these few companies, oil and gas companies are generally located away from normal cities.
If you are in the operations,
Yeah, if you are in the operations.
if you are on the production side,
Right. The industry location, I'm saying. Okay, so if you are planning to join join as an operations engineer or an industry, then you need to take care about this also. Yeah. So, anything else? Yeah,
Yeah,
Jai
I
said
think we
location.
can go ahead and take the questions of students, college, the other participants that we have in the meeting.
Yes, guys.
So do you shift to like management positions from an engineering role? Like, I mean, as your career progresses, do you shift more towards a management role of maybe like a one production unit and then one plant, something like
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
I want to know how your career progresses.
As you grow on in the company, uh, the base level, the shop floor level is basically a technology oriented level. As you grow, it is mainly a managerial post, or it depends on the behavioral competencies and all those things, because you tend to work more on the uh, management oriented aspect. You rarely focus on the technology side of it. Okay. But you have to be sound in the technologies, then only you can govern the middle management at least.
There are some questions in the chat.
Yeah, Jay, we can take them one by one, and accordingly we can answer if we can take it from the chat or people can directly ask in the meeting.
I can take the gate
Third.
wala question here. I can see this question. Your gate experience
Tushar, we'll
preparation
go
suggestions.
from
Okay.
top to bottom, right? First, and when it comes, we can take that. I mean, it would be easier
Okay,
to,
I didn't see. I
to
didn't
answer
see
all
the
the
other
questions.
questions. Fine. Please go on. Please go on,
Yeah.
Rahul.
So, Jay, one by one, you can
Yeah.
tell the questions, and accordingly we can answer.
So first
Should I
question
take
was,
the first one?
so yeah, let me just repeat the
Sure,
question
sure.
and then you guys continue. Could you give an example of process engineering project? This was left.
Process engineering project, I think I can give the answer for that.
Rahul, you designed our company.
Yes.
It's a
Okay,
cracker
so
company. Totally cracker company.
no, I'm thinking which one should I give. So I think I give recently we did one project. There was some noise is coming from the background.
Hi, hi Bhushan, could you please mute yourself?
Wait.
Thank you.
Yeah, so recently we did a project. The process was basically for the production of diesel, or you can say gasoline, either diesel or gasoline from the waste plastic. This one we did recently. It's a comparatively small process. I think we can take that example here for the complete project. So from the starting, let's put it that way, that you might have heard about IIP, Indian Institute of Petroleum. It's there in the Dehradun. Some of you might have heard about it, and for some people it would be something new. So there's one institute, government institute is there, IIP. So basically, they have scientists working on various projects, various technologies. So one of their team of scientists, they have developed the what you say the catalyst, basically, which converts your waste plastic to the valuable fuels, which could be either diesel or gasoline, basically petrol. So they have developed one catalyst for that conversion, for the catalytic conversion, basically. So they had approached Technip in, I guess, 2015 or 2016 for the demo plant. So they had set up one plant, IIP people, in their lab, very small plant. So basically, they were processing around 10 kg feed in a day, and from the 10 kg feed they were getting around 7 liters or 8 liters of diesel from that 10 kg of waste plastic. So basically 80%, you can say. So they had approached Technip for the bigger size plant of that, the scale up of that lab scale process. So we sat with them and discussed with them, and the capacity that we were going for, that we went for, was for 1 TPD. Basically, we designed a plant which can process around 1,000 kgs of waste plastic, and it can convert that 1,000 kgs of waste plastic in around 700 liters of diesel or around 650 liters of gasoline. It's either we can operate that in the diesel mode or the gasoline mode. So that was so we did design that plant, all the equipments, all the line size, and the complete construction of that plant was in our scope. So for the process part, I can, in the brief, there were not so many equipments were there. So for first, there is this extruder that we have. So extruder is basically nothing but your extrusion process. You get the waste plastic, you convert it into the liquid by in the extruder. In extruder is there is extrusion process happening, and it has line heaters in the line, so it can melt after extrusion. So after that, that liquid plastic goes into the pyrolyzer, basically that where the thermal cracking is happening for the base plastic. So thermal cracking, it's basically falling film heat exchanger. You can say it's there in the. I think you might have studied falling film tube. Heat transfer is there. So next, after that, after once it is thermally cracked, it goes to the catalytic reactor. So we had designed the catalytic reactor, and catalyst was supplied by the IIP, which is the licensor for this project, because they had developed this technology. So the catalyst was designed by them. So in the catalytic reactor, everybody knows the catalytic reactions are happening to get the valuable products from that thermally cracked vapors which you got from the pyrolyzer. So once you get that catalytic, the outlet of catalytic reactor goes to the distillation column. So now you have the vapors, right, from the catalytic reactor. Now the distillation columns part is basically to distillate those, to separate those products. So from top of the column, you get fuel gas, which is nothing but your C1 and C2s, lighter components. And below that, you get naphtha, some amount of naphtha around, if you are considering 1,000 kg plant, you get around 40 50 liters of naphtha from there. And below naphtha, you get the diesel or gasoline as per the mode in the mode which you're running. And in the bottom, you get the fuel oil, which is your heaviest as the bottom product. So that's the process that we had there. So it's a small project, a small process. So that's why I took this example, get the complete process. So we'll go to the next question. I think that answers.
I think
Yeah.
I think people who are in third and fourth years, they have to do a final year project, right? So I think if they can take a small project, and if they are interested in joining a core company, they can try working on from the scratch till the final development. I think that will give them a sufficient good idea.
Right, that would be good if they can do that, if they can get the time for that and put the efforts in that.
So guys, there were some questions regarding GATE. I will just sum it up in one go. I mean, there were a couple of questions regarding how GATE, what is the way of preparing for it, how does it influence your GPA, and how does it influence your entry into these companies. Let me go one by one. How do you prepare for it? You give at least 6 months of solid preparation to GATE while in your final year. By the time you're in your final year, you are exposed to almost all the subjects of chemical engineering. So there are 10 subjects that are covered. All those subjects are taught to you in your third and fourth year, and some of them in your second year. So there is a book called Arihant GATE, previous year GATE question papers. You can, I don't know if it's still available, but that is a fairly comprehensive book because it gives you a summary of all the concepts that are taught to you, as well as there are a lot of practice questions in previous year papers that you can practice for GATE. That is on the preparation part. You don't etc. for this. Just solve that book and you can do mock tests online. There are websites which provide you with an opportunity to appear for mock exams. Secondly, when you are probably you're selected after GATE into a company like IOCL, you're sitting for an interview. Your GPA will be asked to you, but it will not be of much consequence. So the reason being that your GATE score itself has a very high weightage, and then your psychometric test and your interview. So you will not be rejected at that point of time solely on the basis of your GPA because you are coming from an all India rank perspective. So that answers your second question. Third question is that, as I had mentioned, even if you are preparing for this exam, And maybe even if you don't want to appear for the exam, just picking up that material and solving some questions will give you enough practice for appearing for core companies interviews. So it is always beneficial. So hello.
Yeah, Kushagra, you went on mute. We can hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So I'll just repeat. In the sense, the three things I'll cover in the questions that were asked regarding GATE. First, the preparation. You need to spend at least 6 to 8 months
No,
of
no,
solid preparation.
that part was covered. Just the last
That
part, last 2 3 lines.
okay. Okay. Sorry. The last thing is even when you are supposedly not appearing for GATE exam, and if you don't want to appear for maybe the GATE exam, merely practicing it for 3 months, the practicing those questions and those concepts for 3 months from that book, or maybe some maybe a website online, can give you enough practice to appear for your core interviews. A lot of these questions are asked by the in those aptitude tests and in the form of field questions. So in both ways it is beneficial. So only if you're looking seriously into going into a core company. Mostly these concepts of heat and mass transfer, fluid mechanics, and thermodynamics are covered in these topics. So I hope this answers your GATE related questions.
I think Kushagra covered all the points. Very clearly. But I just like to add on two, three things on this GATE final interview. So I had a friend from Reliance. He scored a rank of. He got a rank of 100 in GATE. So at last, what happened was he had a good CGPA and he was from NIT, some NIT, I don't remember. Okay. So at last in this final interview, he was called from IOCL, all these top PSUs, IOCL, HPCL, GAIL, and BPCL. Okay, and I mean, to be truthful, he made some very bad decisions. He decided to go only for IOCL. So at last, what happened was, even though he had a good CGPA, even though he was from reputed college, he didn't do well in GD or interview. Okay? So what I would like to say from this is that I mean, your rank matters and your CGPA matters. At last, at last, let us say your performance in interview and GD matters more than all these two factors. Okay, so that's what I wanted to convey.
There is an added
Even
option.
though
There is this addition I would like to add. So I've seen many GATE scorers who have joined my company like GAIL. So keep your options open, and if you are going into core, then you can actually join the company. You can see for yourself how it works. If you don't feel like staying there for long, then you have other options. You can always switch. For example, GAIL to IOCL, IOCL to GAIL, or BPCL to GAIL, something like that. But you keep your options open. Okay. And apart from that, there is this point that Mahesh Yogi put out. There are the softwares or additional skills apart from the GPA or the normal preparations for a core company. Just talking about my experience, I learned Aspen HYSYS and as few Aspen packages. Let's say Aspen HYSYS, Aspen Plus, Aspen Adsorption, and few other things like ANSYS in CFD related part, ANSYS and all these things. HTRI, of course, there's this Exchanger Design and Writing package in Aspen. So this kind of helped me in my interview. And currently, we have developed a operator training simulator in my company as well. It basically, since I'm in steam cracking plant, it's basically converts ethane to ethylene. It's a heart of the polyethylene plant. It's called a thermal cracker or thermal steam cracker. Okay, so we have developed a operator training simulator, which the purpose of which is mainly to train the freshers who are joining this company or joining this plant to get a hands-on experience. Moreover, this simulator is also used for troubleshooting any kind of plant-related issues. So learning these packages served as a benefit for my interview. So if you can, or if you are deeply interested in joining a core company, then you might learn Aspen HYSYS or HTFS or Exchanger Design and Rating, something like that.
So there is one more question which I feel a bit important by Sri Vidya, that how has pandemic affected the current industrial work scenario? Though this sounds pessimistic, would traditional chemical engineering roles continue to exist in future without undergoing any modification? And to add on to this, while answering this, can you guys also touch base on what these guys can do sitting at home, since they do not have hands-on experience in labs or going to class or to do some practicals? So can they get any certification sitting at home, can read some literature which might help them in their career or interviews if they want to go in core area? If any five of you can take this up.
Okay,
Sachin?
I'll start.
Okay.
Sachin,
Yeah.
you want to take?
Yeah, I'll just give a head start to that.
Take.
So yeah, it might sound pessimistic because the current trends have in the current situation has affected the recruitment from Reliance as well. So earlier they used to recruit around 400 people per batch. Now they have restricted themselves to around 150 or 200. So that is first impact of COVID, and this will be expected to continue for next at least 2 to 3 years. So I mean, NIT, they won't stop recruiting from IITs or NITs. So you are in safe zone. So don't worry about that. So only the private colleges will be affected on this placement scenarios. And second thing, on this futuristic roles, that's a really good question. So if you see in Reliance, at least in Reliance, the future roles are mainly it's designed towards a digital twin approach. So hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah. So the futuristic roles are more designed towards a digital twin approach. So basically, as a chemical engineer, you would be expected to know all these basic chemical engineering concepts, and apart from that, you would also be expected to know some data analytics softwares. So if you focus more on that, I think the softwares like R, Python or SQL will add very much to your resume. So, and because in the futuristic roles, everything is about data analytics plus chemical engineering. If you are like all rounder in both these concepts, then that will actually address all these placement issues.
Just for example, let's say you're studying about heat exchanger, right? And we know something like fouling deteriorates the performance of a heat exchanger. So what you can do is you can take the overall heat transfer coefficient and get a time series data analysis that with time how the fouling is increasing or how the efficiency is decreasing. So that will basically help in preventive maintenance, something like that. And yeah, so data analytics and learning a few packages like Aspen or HDFS, and doing a few certifications from Coursera and maybe EDX would be really great.
Can you name?
And as far as PSUs are concerned, see, as I already said, it's highly guidelined by the government. So there has been a decrease in recruitment numbers, but not a significant decrease, because every year they are supposed to intake this many amount of people from directly from colleges. Okay, so and as far as NIT Trichy is concerned, it stands in top NIT, so don't worry about that. This year also we are going.
So, Souvik, just one liner on what certifications can they do from Coursera, because it's hard to just go and search on the search bar. People get
See,
confused.
as
What
Sachin has already pointed out, R and Python, and apart from that, maybe Excel, because Excel is used a lot. not the basic addition, multiplication, summation. You can do a hell lot of things with Excel. Okay, so if you can learn that, and maybe if you are working on core subjects, and if you don't know about all the technology related softwares, then there are courses on those as well. And if you want to know where you can download it from, go to getintopc.com. You can download it, the crack version, for free.
Guys, in addition to this, one input I'd like to give here is that you can also do a KPMG Six Sigma certification online. You don't have to go anywhere for that. It is a fairly valid certification if you're looking to build a career in operations and supply chain management. It is a fairly recognized certification as well. When you're doing it as a part of as a student, probably it will be cheaper to you. It will be around 6 to 10K. But when you do, so this is one very good option, fairly recognized everywhere, and gives you a good insight into quality management.
Good point, Kushaka.
There are a couple of questions on internship. So to sum
Thanks,
this question up, what kind of internships can they do? Will core internship will be given an upper edge over non-core internships? So if you can touch base on these questions. For everyone to get a job in core domain, and if doing an internship in core
core project really gives you an upper hand, because they are in the interview also, they are going to ask you about what you have done in the project, what you have done in the internship, or any previous experience or something like that. Moreover, if you are sitting for an interview in the PSU sector, then they ask very fundamental questions. Just for example, my interview question was, since your marks in basic first semester electrical systems is good, what is the similarity between electrical engineering and chemical engineering? So such fundamental questions like that. So if you do a core based internship or core based project, it really gives you an upper hand in getting into the company. And in addition to this, there is this question: does PSUs give industry internship? Yeah, they give industry internship. They have this guideline. Again, we have a guideline procedure for this industry internship. We can directly go to their website and apply for it.
Just one more question, just as a follow-up to that. Does internship in that mean like just part of the like visiting the industries and knowing about the process, or does it actually require doing something when you go to an industry?
In PSU, people are not that bothered of teaching you bit by bit. Okay, so you go to the company. If you are very interested, you can do a complete set of project. People will give you project for sure. If you are, that also you can do. So there are options. People are relaxed.
Okay, so there is one more question by Nitish. What about internships in first year? So I have an answer for this. I don't think you do internships in first year. You do industrial visits and those sort of things. Yeah, that was it. Because you do not read any of the core subjects, you just read generalized subjects. And yeah, other speakers can give a deeper insight into this.
Jay, I think the core subject generally starts from the second year onwards. first year is basically a foundation thing. Okay, so in the first year you can basically go out and hang out with your friends, maybe visit one or two industries and all. Okay, so that gives you an idea of about what you are going to work upon. Okay, and it channelizes your thinking procedure. So if you see a chemical industry, how it works, you get an idea of the work culture, you get an idea of what sort of process or design or whatever you are going to handle if you join a core industries, or if you visit a different corporate sector, which rarely happens, then you get an idea about that. So I think it is very essential if you can arrange for a industrial visit in the first year. And apart from that, just chill, relax, hang out with your friends, and learn something other than your core course.
I think we have covered most of the questions. Guys, we'll share email IDs and Google Forms to ask more questions, and we'll try to reach out to you as soon as possible. And post this, we'll conduct a one-on-one mentorship program, which will again help you. And if we find there can be a broad topic in which we can take a session, we'll arrange one more session. So that's not a problem. I guess we have taken all the questions. If you have any, just unmute yourself and speak it out.
Jay, what I'm saying is that can you or Kushara give them a brief about uh, going shifting to management maybe?
We have
Yeah,
one more
there is
session for that.
1 hour session after this, like
Okay,
in 5
okay.
minutes for that.
Okay.
So we did not cover about the salary.
Sorry?
Salary.
The pay,
Yeah,
the CTC or the
pay and increment.
it has so many names.
Yeah, Mahesh, I believe, I mean, again, we can cover it up, but I guess it is way different now than what it was back then.
Right.
So I guess the placement committee right now, the placement coordinator right now would be the best point of contact for these people to be getting an idea of the salary. Of course, individually, if you guys know about your company's entry level packages or increment structure, you can definitely share.
Yogi, I think rather than talking about the CTC, we can talk about the career growth that we have.
Yeah. That makes more
would
sense.
be good. Yeah, it makes sense.
Just overall, I'm saying that in a private sector company, you start with a moderate and humble package, but the increment is super good. As compared to PSU, you get a hefty entry level package, but your increment is very sluggish.
Okay, this is not the case in Reliance Industries. In Reliance, you will get 3%, 5%, and maximum 10% increment per year. So, like 18 to 20,000 rupees increment per year. So, like salary is not that good in Reliance Industries.
But in PSU, definitely you get all the allowances.
Yeah.
So that like medical allowance and all sorts of random evolved allowances will be there.
Basically, it depends on company to company.
Depends on
We
company.
have talked about lines, we have talked about KL, and in the design companies, it depends how the company is doing in the market. Are they getting any projects, and what's your involvement in that? So basically, there is no upper limit to that. You can get 20 to 30% also increment, 40% increment people have got in the past based on their performance. So there is no such limitation for that. If you're involved in the project, if you have contributed that much, so there is no upper limit to that. So you can get anything. I mean, based on your performance, based on your expertise, based on your work that you have done in the past year projects, previous projects. So it depends on that. So in design companies, basically you do not have any upper limit that your increment will be restricted to that. It won't go beyond 10% or say 8%. So there's no upper limit to that. And the primary factor would be how the company is doing in the market. Are they getting any projects? Are they making any profits? And how much work they have? Do they have idle people, or everyone is is involved in some kind of projects? So it depends on all of that, plus your performance as well.
just walk. I'd suggest just walk towards making yourself as an asset to the company. See, the interview market yourselves. So if you work on yourself, if you develop your I'd say resume and your learnings and all those things, you just prove them that you would be an asset to the company. If you work on that, then you don't have to worry about uh, getting a good package.
I have a question.
Moreover,
Yeah, Pranav.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just as a follow-up, like in an organization or a company, who is the deciding factor on how much you get paid, or like who do you report to, and who makes those decisions?
It
And
depends
what are the
on your
I
factors
don't
which
manager.
goes into?
I don't think that matters right now or even after you are in the job. Yeah, so Vic or Rahul or anyone can take this up.
see the
So
second point
Pranav,
I was,
yeah,
yeah,
okay,
Rahul, go
I'll
on.
go on. So basically, in the college we have HODs, right? Head of department. So it's the same culture in the core companies as well. We have head of departments. So and there are managers. Your managers basically, and they report to the head of department. And your HODs, they report to the company's MD. So first, the process, the cycle would be the MD would brief all the HODs, department HODs, that our company has done, if they have done good or excellent or average, what kind of how much money they have made, and what kind of projects they are looking in the future. So the workload, upcoming workload. So there are a lot of factors are there. So basically, they brief them about this company scenario, current scenario, and the upcoming situation of the company, and then they get the idea that we would be. They can give up to this much. They set a range, so we can, we would distribute increments in that range. So now that they have the range, they come back to the managers. They basically they get your reports, or I don't know, the better word would be feedback from your managers, your feedback, and based on that, they put you in that range. Where do you fit exactly based on your performance in the past projects or current projects? Throughout the year, whatever you have done, they try to fix you there in that range. So wherever you fit, that increment you get in that range. So that's how it is in my company in the Technic. Not sure about the other companies. So basically that's the process for the
It is
increments that
same
we have.
everywhere.
Except in PSU, you
Okay.
get 60,000 hand starting, and it is decided by Prime Minister of India.
Okay.
The second point, what I was saying is that people who are really interested in learning, so I think private sector companies would give you better opportunities in developing your career. Okay, so if you opt for PSUs, no doubt it will give you a lot of allowances and package at the starting, but your learning procedure will diminish, or it will be stagnant. So in summarization, if you want to do something sitting at home, what Rahul, Kushagra, Mahesh, and Sachin said, in data analytics, learn about R, SQL, Python, or maybe do a short Udemy course, or Six Sigma. KPMG is a very good company who providing Six Sigma, but any reputed companies for Six Sigma is a really good thing. But you have to do a project if you're doing Six Sigma. So just make sure you have that opportunity to do that project somewhere in some company. Okay, and as far as the core is concerned, you can learn about Aspen Exchanger design and rating, maybe Aspen HYSYS and Aspen Plus. And as far as some operations management is concerned, you can study for supply chain management or plant economics or finance for non-finance. Yeah, so that's it.
I think we should now start with non-core session because it should have been started by 11:15. Rahul Sethi, Sobek, Sachin, Mahesh, and Kushagra. You can stay. I think you can stay here and help us in any of the questions that might come up management related that you can think you can pitch in. So please do stay and with
Sorry, I'm sitting in the info.
so guys, so hard work.
This is not hard
Yeah,
working. Again, it is
even I
guideline
got to leave,
tension.
man.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was
So before going,
really
I
great
can.
interacting.
Yeah, sorry.
It was really great interacting with you all. And if you have any kind of doubt, be it personal, be it group doubts, you can always reach us. Probably our contact will be shared by Jai, or
Yeah,
even we
I'll do
can
that.
share it
Yeah.
later. Yeah. So any kind of doubt, please feel free. We are just a few years senior to you. Be frank and contact us. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm also leaving. Okay. So
Yeah.
if you have any
Bye.
questions, we can come back on that on a later stage, right?